Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to AlphaBiolabs breakfast webinar, Discover What's New in Alcohol Monitoring Technology. It's fantastic to have you with us this morning. Thank you very much for your time. My name's Andrew Priestley, and I'm the Marketing Manager for the legal sector here at AlphaBiolabs. I'll be acting as the facilitator for the webinar this morning. I'm joined by my colleague, Ashley Hodgkinson. Ashley's our samples collection manager, and she has extensive testing service experience in the UK for DNA, drugs and alcohol. She also delivers a number of presentations to clients and professional bodies. So Ashley will be our lead presenter this morning. In terms of the agenda, we're just going to break the webinar into two sections. The first section will be, we'll discover the latest enhancements to our SCRAM CAM ankle bracelet service. And then the second section will be, we'll find out more about the benefits of Smart Mobile and how it offers an alternative but effective solution to SCRAM CAM. In terms of housekeeping, as attendees, you are automatically muted, but please do use the Q&A function, which you should be able to see, to answer any questions that you may have throughout the webinar. Ashley and myself will do our best to answer as many as we can. But what we will do for any that are unanswered, we will collate that information and provide answers to all attendees after the webinar. During the webinar as well, there'll be a number of polls that we'd ask you to just complete, which will be really good feedback for us. And there will also be a post-webinar survey, which is very short, probably 5 or 6 questions. If you could kindly take the time to complete that survey, that would be much appreciated. If you have any other sort of technical issues, during the webinar that you need help with, again, the chat function's available. You can use that. That will send a message to myself, and I'll do the best to help you out. Okay, so before I hand over to Ashley, we've got an opening poll here, which I'm going to launch. Hopefully, in a second on your screen, you will see a couple of questions. So hopefully you can see that now. If you kindly answer them. Have you previously used the SCRAM ankle bracelet with your clients? Yes or no? And then if you have, would you consider it again? If you answered no to the first question, then please select that option there. So I think most of you completed that now. Just give you a few more seconds. Okay, so we've got 95% of you completed it. I think it's just one more person. Okay, let's look at the results. I'll share the results with you. So 64% of you have used SCRAM before. That's great. And of those that have, well, that's great as well. So everyone would consider using it again. So that's really positive news. Thank you very much for completing that poll. I'll just stop sharing that. And without further ado, I will hand over to Ashley, who's going to talk about SCRAM.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Like Andrew said, we're going to cover 2 topics today. The first one I'm going to cover is SCRAM. As I can see from the poll, quite a few of you have used it before. There's a couple of you that haven't, so I'm just going to go over some basic information about it. And then I'm going to move on to Smart Mobile. So this is a new development, a new product to the market, to kind of give you some information about it and compare the two together. Because although they do similar things in the sense of alcohol monitoring, they are 2 very different products. So we're going to start with SCRAM. As you can see, there's a picture of it on the screen for anyone that's not seen it before. And this is continuous alcohol monitoring. So this is monitoring someone's consumption going forward. So if any of you have used our hair or blood services before, you'll know that they look back a specific period of time, usually either 3 or 6 months, depending on the type of test. These ones that we're going to talk about today are looking forward. So we're not looking at any historic use. It's about people usually that are on a program to either reduce their alcohol intake or to abstain from it completely. So that's what these 2 products will look at. So a couple of things to cover with SCRAM. The first one is that it's going to monitor your clients 24 hours a day. So it's going to take a reading every 30 minutes via sweat perspiration from the ankle, and it can only be fit to the ankle. So unfortunately, it's not like a Fitbit. It won't sit on your wrist or anything like that. It's got to go around the ankle. As you can see, it's quite substantial in size from the picture there. It's about the size of your fist. So usually it's only typically worn up to 120 days at a time. We can install the bracelet indefinitely if that's what would suit your client's needs the most. And they can have it on for as little as 1 day. But usually people look around about 60 to 120 days for this type of monitoring. It can only be fit and removed by a trained AlphaBiolabs collector. So if you are going to have choose this option for your client, please note that they can't take it on and off and wear it as and when they desire. It is designed to be fit to the ankle at all times during the monitoring period, in order to give you that full picture of exactly what your client's use would be. So like I said, it's going to build up a profile over the period of time that your client is being monitored for, and it's going to look for anything as little as 1 unit. So if we put that into kind of relative terms that we can all relate to, a single pub measure of vodka would equate to approximately 1 unit. And a pint of beer, depending on the strength of it, to be completely honest, you're looking at between 2 and 3 units. So anything like that, it's going to detect through that perspiration in the ankle. Once we get notice of these drinking events, that's what we refer to them as, alcohol consumption events or drinking events, we will then process that information to determine whether it was a true drinking event and it is something that the client's consumed, or if there could be of any environmental factors that could also affect it. When we do fit these bracelets, we get a lot of questions about environmental exposure, be that person is around other people that are drinking or using products containing alcohol, such as cleaning products, perfumes, things like that. The bracelet is very intelligent. It'll be able to differentiate between environmental exposure and then alcohol drinking events. So there's no concern there. We'll be able to differentiate between the two. And then as soon as we are aware that that is a confirmed alcohol drinking event, we would notify yourselves as the instructing party. Like I mentioned a couple of moments ago, it's really designed for anyone who's on a program to reduce the drinking, or for anyone trying to go sober or trying to maintain sobriety. That's what these bracelets are best used for. You'll get the full picture of someone's consumption during that time frame. But like I said, it is fit to the ankle. So it's not an optional, take it off, put it back on again. It is something that's designed to monitor that person continually every half an hour for a set period of time. For those of you that have used SCRAM before, we have improved on some of the services that we provide to you based on the feedback from yourselves. So there's 2 main standout new things that we've introduced. The first one, as you'll probably know, when you instructed SCRAM previously, you were provided with 1 free report at the end of the monitoring period. Based on your feedback, the information that you were looking to obtain, it wasn't really sufficient, it wasn't enough information. So we've introduced free weekly or monthly court-approved reports. Now, it's entirely up to you how often you want those. You can have them fortnightly, you can stick with the one at the end. It will be entirely based upon what your client's needs are and what you're trying to obtain from the report. So if you have someone who is maintaining sobriety and they haven't got children with them, they're just trying to prove that they haven't drank during that period, 1 report at the end may be sufficient for you. We will also now notify you of any confirmed alcohol drinking events within a 24-hour period. So what I mean by confirmed drinking events is what I was just talking about, that environmental exposure. If we can rule that out and we determine that it is definitely a drinking event that we've seen, then we will notify you within 24 hours. So we can keep you up to date at all times. Here is a look at the report for anyone that hasn't had one of these before. If you do choose to instruct us for some SCRAM monitoring, then this is the report that you will receive, like I say, based on when you require it. The front page here, the one on the far left, is a summary of the testing or the monitoring period, should I say, sorry. And it'll give you a bit of a summary. So on this one, you can see that there were 14 alcohol events during the monitoring period and no tamper events. So the client who was wearing this one did comply with the program. They didn't try and mess with a bracelet, put anything between the ankle and the bracelet. They didn't cut it off. They did nothing like that. They complied completely. And we can see that here. So if you did have a client who was messing around with the bracelet, we'd be able to see that as well. So you get a summary on the first page, and then on the middle page, you'll see there, you get an individual breakdown of each drinking or tamper event if you do have any for your client. So depending on the number of tamper events depends on the length of this report, but each one is broken down to a date and time, and then also whether it was a low, medium, or a high level drinking event, and what the concentration of that event is. On the final page, we just do a summary for you to show how long the person was monitored for, that the bracelet was taking readings every day. So you can see that there was one every 30 minutes, 24 hours each day. And then we confirm any alerts when they took place, be those drinking events or tamper events. And all the reports are in the same format. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour with SCRAM. I know a couple of you have used it before, so I didn't want to kind of hang about on that too much. So I'm just going to check the question and answer part and see if anyone's got any questions about the SCRAM. I'm going to take it that because there's no questions, we've covered that sufficiently and answered any that you did have. But if you do think of any, the question and answer will remain open, so feel free to pop any in there.
Thanks, Ashley. Oh, we do have a question, actually.
Oh. Can the SCRAM be fitted away from the client's address? Great question. Yeah, something which we didn't cover actually. So when you have a SCRAM bracelet fitted, you've got two options. So the first option is that we can just fit the bracelet. Your client can carry on, go about the daily business, and then whenever you want the information off the bracelet, we can go back out to visit them, either at your offices, at their home address, or they can even come to us at a walk-in, and we can download all of the data that's stored within that bracelet. The other option is that we can fit what's known as a base station, which looks a little bit like a Wi-Fi router, into their home address. And then every time that bracelet takes a reading, it will push it through the base station and straight onto the portal that we can see here. The base station would be my recommendation if possible, because one, we'll be able to give you those updates straight away. We won't need to arrange to go back out to see the client. And two, if there are any issues, if you do tamper with it or cut it off, we'll know immediately. We can still fit it away from the client's address. It just means that they're responsible for taking that base station home and plugging it in when they get there. So it really depends on your client's needs as to where would be the best place to fit the bracelet. Does the client have to have internet access to have a SCRAM bracelet? The answer is no. It has inside of it a little, like a SIM card, and it will feed off the SIM card and push the information out to us. So they don't need to have internet. It's ideal if they do, only because what we've seen in the past is if they're ever in areas of low mobile coverage, we can hook it up to the Wi-Fi if it's struggling to see it. But to be honest, we've only really had that 1 or 2 times where we've had to request to kind of connect it to the Wi-Fi. And like I mentioned to Adele's question, if there are any serious issues with connectivity, we can always go out and download that information. So they definitely don't need to have internet access. It would be ideal if they could have electricity so that we can plug the base station in, but it does also have an internal battery that it can run off if that is a problem. Just keeping an eye on time, Andrew, we're kind of halfway through. Do you want me to answer any of the other ones in the frequently asked questions sheet?
It's great to have so many questions. Thank you. What we will do, if that's okay, is we do need to move on. We're conscious that we need to keep the webinar to 30 minutes. So we will move on to Smart Mobile. But as I said at the start of the webinar, Ashley and myself will put together answers to all those questions and we'll issue something to all participants later on. So apologies, we're not going to cover them all now, just for the purpose of time. You know, we will come back to you later on today with answers. And in the meantime, if you've got any more, then keep putting them into the Q&A about SCRAM, even while we're talking about Smart Mobile. Okay, so second poll, I'm just going to launch that. Again, very similar, just 2 very simple questions. Please do all have a go at answering those. Have you previously used a portable breath monitoring device with your clients? Yes or no? If you have, would you consider it again? I think almost everybody's done that. I think we've just got one more person. Okay, let's look at the results of that. Again, really interesting. So only 8% of you have used this sort of solution before, which is what I expect. There's actually 2 people on the call who have used it, and you would consider using it again, which again is positive. But it's quite clear that this sort of solution is in its infancy. It's, you know, as you'll see from Ashley's presentation, it's a new product that we are using now, and we're keen for you to understand more about it. So thanks very much for that, Paul. Okay, Ashley, back to you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to Smart Mobile. There's some pictures down the right-hand side for those of you that haven't seen it before. We know that SCRAM is a popular product. We really like it here. We think it's really good. It's really intelligent, but it doesn't suit everybody, and that's where the Smart Mobile comes in. So they do cover 2 very different types of clients, and they cover different reasons for monitoring as well. So I'm going to talk about the Smart Mobile, and then we'll move on to comparing the 2 so that it kind of makes a little bit more sense about when we would use each. So as you can see from the right-hand side, it looks very similar to the breathalyzer device, the portable devices. It's very discreet in the case that you can pop it in its case, pop it away. It's not attached to you all the time. So it's become very popular with people who don't need to be monitored 24 hours a day. So like I said, for the SCRAM, it's fit to your ankle. You've got to keep it on. It's monitoring you all the time. Smart Mobile isn't like that. So this is infrequent tests by way of a breath sample, as and when you would like your client to comply. So as the instructing party, you would decide how often or infrequent you would want your client to be providing these samples. And you can do it on a couple of different programs. So they can either provide it on a schedule. So you can say, okay, at 10 o'clock every morning and at 4 o'clock every evening, you would need to provide a sample of breath into the Smart Mobile, just like you would with a by the side of the road breathalyzer. And they would know to comply at those times. You can have it on a random program. So where the device itself just spontaneously asks for testing as and when. Or you can have it on demand. So if you are alerted of any issues by anyone, be that social worker or anyone who frequently visits the family member who you're looking to test, then they can then notify you and you can initiate a test. And you can use a combination of the 3 as well. You're not fixed to one. You can use all 3 of them if you wanted to. And the idea of it is that these are for compliant people who want to work with you either to, like I say, remain sober or to reduce their alcohol levels, who are willing to engage with a portable device that isn't constantly fit to them. So when you provide a sample of breath into the device, unlike the by the side of the road ones, it's going to take a photograph of the person providing the sample. And this is how we maintain that chain of custody, knowing who provided the sample, what time, what date. It records all of that information, and it's uploaded onto a portal. Now, unlike the SCRAM testing, this portal for the Smart Mobile we can share with you. So we can grant you access to the portal where you can monitor your client yourself. You can log in at any point and look at previous testing. And you can instruct a test to take place and it will update on the Smart Mobile device. So there's 2 different options for this. You can have a self-managed test where you do all of it. We put you in control. We train you up in it. And you're able to instruct testing and monitor the reports as you wish, or we can take it off your hands and we can do all of the monitoring for you. Here is an example of a report for the Smart Mobile. My colleague very kindly provided this report to me, so we've not redacted it. It is just someone that works here at our company that's provided this. And this is what you would see if you instructed this type of testing for your client. So it will give you a photograph for every individual result, as you can see there. And if there is what we would call a violation, so a drinking event over 0, it will notify you of that with the red box, and it will tell you exactly what that reading was. If your client does provide a positive breath sample, they will be asked to provide 2 further tests. And that's exactly what's happened here. And it will just ensure that it was definitely a drinking event that occurred. Again, no environmental factors. And it will also show you if it's going up or if it's going down. So did they drink close to providing the test and they're still processing the alcohol? or have they just drank and now it's starting to come out of the system. So this is what the report will look like, really easy to follow. And like I say, if you did want to go with us, with the self-managed system, you can log in and have access to all of this information as well. So the smart mobile device is great for people who are complying with the testing. So we're going to look at the two different types, the two different options and compare the two. So not to jump back to the SCRAM testing, but it's just to kind of demonstrate when that would be an option and when the smart mobile would be. So like I've said before, you're monitoring the person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you're going to get a reading every 30 minutes. So this would be where you need to know at all times what their consumption would be. So where you want that 30-minute interval every day to be sure that they were either complying to a program or remaining sober the whole of the duration of the testing. We say that SCRAM bracelet is better for high-risk clients. So people who don't want to be responsible for carrying something around with them, remembering to do the testing, that sort of thing. They just want it fit into their ankle and carrying on with the day. It requires no input from them whatsoever other than to keep it on their ankle. So for anyone who that would be more suitable for, then SCRAM is probably the preferred method. Smart mobile would be better for when people are complying with the testing program, they're willing to go along with it, they understand how it will benefit them in the future. The device itself will sound an alarm. It's not terribly loud, it's not obvious that that's what it is, but it will sound an alarm when they're due to provide a sample. So it's not that they need to kind of watch the clock and make sure that at 8 o'clock every morning they get the breathalyzer out and they remember to provide that sample at that time. It will alert them. They just need to then obviously get it out of the case and comply and provide the sample. The main issue that we've had with SCRAM bracelets in the past is that they've been tried to be used in cases where someone has contact with a child, but they have it infrequently. So for instance, if you had a parent that had contact with their child every Thursday, and it was only on a Thursday that they weren't allowed to be consuming alcohol, but any other day of the week it was fine. A lot of them find the SCRAM bracelet quite restrictive because they have to wear it for 30, 60, 90 days, whatever the program may be, just for the sole purpose of monitoring them on a Thursday, for example. This is where the smart mobile would come into it. You could have them provide breath samples prior, during, and then after contact, if you so wished that or thought that that was the best option for them. So it's a lot more freedom for the client where it's able to be allowed. So that's where we see the smart mobile being requested more often. Like we say, it needs accountability from the client. They need to carry it around, comply to the testing program. If they do miss a testing window, so if they were programmed to provide a sample at 8 o'clock in the morning, they're given a 15-minute window to do so. If they do miss that window, it's not the end of the world. They can provide a sample shortly after, but it would then be up to them to account to you why they weren't there on time and why they didn't provide that sample. But they can do it at any point after. It doesn't lock them out of the device or anything like that. It just means that they've missed the testing window that was set for them. Here's kind of an easier way to compare the two side by side. So like I've said, SCRAM permanently fitted. It's for people who don't really want to be getting a breathalyzer out, carrying it around with them, anything like that. Smart mobile is a lot more discreet because it's not fit to them all the time, but it does require some user interaction from them, some compliance from them. Just bearing in mind as well with the smart mobile, that if you are going to assign it to a client who is working, that they would have to carry it to work with them as well. So just to make them aware of that in advance, they can't be leaving it at home. They still need to comply with that testing program. Shall we see if there's any questions about smart mobile? I'm hoping so, because I know it's quite new. Let's have a look.
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions, which is great. Matthew Smith, would smart mobile be usable in proceedings with legal aid?
Yeah, it is LAA approved, as is the SCRAM cam. So both of them would be fine to be used in proceedings with legal aid. There's no issues there. I can get some information sent over on that as well, Matthew, if you want any further information, but we have checked and it is legal aid approved. Let's have a look. Okay, the rest of them are about SCRAM testing.
We've got a few minutes, Ashley, so if you want to answer some of those on the actual webinar. If you go back to the top, so the next one was actually how much is SCRAM?
Yeah, let's have a look.
So it's a question from Lorraine.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm with you. How much is SCRAM? So totally depends on the testing program, how many days you want monitoring for, couple of different things that we have to take into consideration, where you want it fitting, things like that. Obviously, if you come to the walk-in clinic, that would be a discounted price, but it starts around about 575, based on a 30-day period, realistically speaking, whereas your smart mobile would start around 395 if you were doing the self-managed program. So there is a little bit of a cost difference there. However, the longer you wear the SCRAM for, the cheaper it gets. You get discount for more days, as you do with the smart mobile. There was one down here that was quite interesting, actually, about if the SCRAM bracelet works by measuring sweat, then if you do physical activity, go for a run or go to the gym, how does that affect the reading? It wouldn't affect the reading. So you can go, you can exercise, you can work out, you can perspire as much as you want to, but the concentration of alcohol within the sweat would remain the same. Obviously, as time goes on and you're metabolizing, you're going to work some of that alcohol concentration out, but it wouldn't read any higher or lower because you're perspiring more than you would usually. So it wouldn't have any effect on it. And the only thing I would say is because of where the SCRAM bracelet is fitted, it may be quite difficult to run in it. It can get quite uncomfortable, banging against kind of the ankle bone. That would be the only comment I could make on exercise. But reading wise, it would still measure just as accurately. I'll just do one more, Andrew, and then I'll hand back over to the final call. Can you buy the smart mobile? You certainly can, yeah. So if you wanted to use it for a certain length of time, you can buy it. The only thing that you obviously would still need, though, would be that portal access. So you'd be looking at what we would refer to as a self-managed system, where you would kind of rent the smart mobile to get the portal alongside. I'm not sure what use it would be in isolation, to be honest, because you wouldn't be able to view the previous results. So although you can buy it, you'd probably be better renting it alongside the portal, then you can generate those reports as and when you need to.
That's great. Thank you very much, Ashley. Really interesting stuff there. Thank you. Okay, we've only got a couple of minutes left, so I'm just going to launch the final poll. Just simply one question. If you could all kindly answer that, that would be really good feedback for us. You should be able to see that question now. So has this webinar increased or decreased the attractiveness of using alcohol monitoring solutions with your clients? You've got three options there. It has increased, or it's decreased, or there's no difference. Great to get all your responses. Okay, just a few more. Almost there, but these results are looking really good. Okay, most of you responded to that. I'll just share the results on that. So that's really positive. The majority of you feel that it is more attractive than prior, possibly to prior to this webinar. So that suggests to me that it has been useful, your attendance on the webinar this morning. So thank you very much for your responses there. Okay, so next steps. If you would like to discuss either solution in more detail, then you can contact us, or in the post-webinar survey, which I'd ask you to kindly complete, you can make a request there and we will be in touch with you. As a way of thank you for your attendance on the webinar this morning, we have a special promotion for you, and we would like to offer you 10% off any SCRAM or smart mobile instruction, and that will run until the end of this year. That's a way of saying thank you very much for your time this morning. And there's the ways you can contact us. There's our main number. You can email us at testing@alphabiolabs.com. If you quote the code NOVWeb10, again, if you use one of our referral forms on the website to request that quote, we'll ensure that the quote includes a 10% discount. So please do get in touch with us. We are the experts in legal DNA, drug and alcohol testing. there's our contact details there. If you're on social media, LinkedIn or Twitter, please look us up on there and give us a follow, and we'll follow you back. And just to finish off, thanks very much to Ashley for your presentation this morning. And thanks to all of you for your time. It's really appreciated, and have a great day. Thank you and goodbye.